Okay guys, so I've gotten some questions recently about the old infamous fuse box down here under the dash. And since I'm wrapping up this tool truck project and getting this dash back together, I figured I'd take a quick second and point out a few things. So if you look in here, this gray box on the top with the plugs on the left side is your gem module. And then of course down in there is your two, I just call them master plugs, but that's your two main harness plugs that go in and get all of their feeds from the front side of the fuse box. What's happening with a lot of these trucks is that they'll develop a little windshield leak and they will drip on the fuse box and the gem module and create all kind of interesting problems. I mean, weird things from starters bumping off, lights coming on and going off by themselves, horn blowing, all that kind of stuff. And that is usually corrosion behind here. So I did a video a while back on cloning a fuse box, which was actually this one that we took out. I loaned it to, gave it to a friend of mine, and we got this one back as a refurb. And this was an excursion fuse box. So being that this is a work truck with, you know, no power or anything, we didn't need a lot of the slots. So I showed y'all how to clone that, and I'll kind of touch on that here in a minute and then show you some pictures from some viewers. I got some viewers that sent in photos of the gutted fuse box so that you can see what's going on with the corrosion. So I'm going to put a little collage of those photos together and see if we can't make a kind of a little video of what's going on inside, and that way y'all can wrap your minds around it. So let me get on and let me round up a fuse box and we'll get into it. Okay guys, so here's the thing. We're back on the fuse boxes that we were just talking about. So this one was out of a 2000 F250 extra cab. I believe we got a playlist on that truck on the channel, and this some of the same information was covered in the fuse box cloning video on that 2000 F250. I have a couple of fuse boxes here. So before you start fooling with this, just to I'm gonna kind of touch on a few things. So we got some relays missing here. Of course, the relays usually have one here and one here. You know, those are for a strip truck, and then additional relays depending on what the options of your truck are. So what I'll do is I'll take a picture of this, and this came out of a work truck as well. So this is pretty much the base least amount of fuses you're going to have in your truck. If you have four-wheel drive, if you have power windows and locks, heated seats, heated mirrors, you'll have additional sockets on here. Now if your fuse box came out of a base truck, when you look in here with a flashlight, you're not going to see the little metal contacts. I'm going to see if I can show this to y'all. Let me pull a fuse out. Let me get up here close. So where were we? This one. So I don't know if we can see in there, but you'll see when I open the other one up. So you have receptacles that'll hold the fuse in the sockets you're going to use for your truck, so you can reorganize that. So I take a picture or take this apart and lay it out in a way that you can get it back. The picture's the easiest way, with the relays in it. As it comes out of the truck, take a picture of it, and that'll get us into the cloning aspect of it. So we can you can go around here with all the fuses out and relays out. You can pop these out. I've got this one kind of halfway popped out. So these are the females that I'm talking about that the fuses slide into. Okay, so if we need a fuse here, I don't know what this would be. I don't have the book in front of me, but let's say this came out of a two-wheel drive truck. We're putting it in our truck, which may be a four-wheel drive, and the four-wheel drive circuit would be here. I don't know, but I'm just saying. You can look in the bottom. I don't know if this is going to show, but there's male studs very similar to these all right, in the bottom of each one of these. And as a matter of fact, it corresponds to these. These have little bars. There's 8 or 10 layers of little bars that go from certain males here and terminate into certain males here. And then these shiny, let me put this back over here. Okay, so what I did is I took a fuse, stuck it in both of them, and kind of pried it and pulled this out. So what you have here is just a double female. So what that's going to do, down in the bottom down there is another male. Looks just like the fuse right here. So when you want to move these, you can stick the fuse in. Let me see if I can get this one. So I'm just popping these out. So that's the 2 that go right here. Okay, if we wanted to move them to a new location, let's just say that, call our old location a new one, you can set them in and press them down. Now they're stabbed on the 2 pins at the very base of this hole, and now your fuse will go in them. So you can use a fuse to pull them up, and then you can move them. So if you took a picture of your fuse box and you need a socket here, and you don't have the females, you can grab one from a socket you're not using, or if you're cloning a fuse box, you're gonna trash that fuse box anyway, so you can rob your females out of there. And before you ever throw a fuse box away, I would pull all of these out and keep a little Ziploc bag of them handy, so that way you can move them. If you need sockets for your relay, and let's say your truck's a base truck, so it only has the first 2, and you need the last 2, then you can rob these out of a bad fuse box and put them in. And then you can create the circuits that you need, because all of these, whatever, you know, if this is the number 15 fuse, it's always the number 15 fuse, and it always runs the same thing. So no matter which truck you have, whether you have a fully loaded excursion or a stripped down work truck, if this is a common fuse between those, say it has something to do with the cab lights or something, then it's going to be in that fuse box. So the only thing you're going to be missing from a base fuse box to a fully loaded fuse box is whatever options your truck has. So back to these. When these are in the truck, they're sitting like this. Okay, your gym module plugs in right here and sits right here, and the tail end screws up here. So let me get this back in. So the gym can get dripped on, but what really happens a lot is water drips in here. Now you can see some of this is more or less dirt in this one, but on this old truck you can see the green corrosion. So on both of these fuse boxes, this one had weird things going on and going off, like wipers going off for no reason. I think that was the big complaint here, and something else. I loaned a buddy of mine a fuse box for this and ended up having to replace it with a refurb from a reman unit from eBay. On this one, this relay that sits right here, and if you go back to the video, you can see the truck would not start unless you mashed this relay down. So it would sit like this. You take your thumb and push it this direction, and it would make contact. So there's a connection issue under one of these prongs right here. So that's what was happening with this one. Well, we got a reman, and you can get your serial number and order them off of, like I said, I get them off of eBay. I don't remember what they were, a couple $100, $150, but and I don't know what they're remanning because you can't open it. But I'm gonna throw a slideshow in to show you guys a few things. Now, that is how you open the front side of this fuse box. So I'm gonna pop this back in. Okay, now we've, let's say we've reorganized our females. Now we can come in and put our corresponding fuses in. If you're cloning it exactly, you can just move them over one at a time. If you're adding circuits, then you need to look up the amperage of the fuse for that circuit that you just added that wasn't in this one or whatever, and that way you have the same fuses. But these rivet nuts right here are flared. I don't know what they call it, rivet nut, flare nut, whatever. And so I was gonna drill this out to make a presentation for you guys, but I had Mike and Nick send me, a couple of viewers that saw the fuse box video, Mike and Nick sent me some fuse boxes that they had cut up. Now the way to do it, you have these little snaps right here, but it's all held together with these flared kind of rivet looking nuts, and they stick through the front, and then they're flared here, so it's a permanent fix. So I've had one guy took a Dremel, I think the other guy took a drill bit and drilled these flares off. Then you can pop the tabs and separate this. And I'm gonna have a you know, I'm gonna show y'all a slide presentation of their pics that they sent in. I've been meaning to do this for some time, but I recently got a couple of questions about fuse boxes again. So again, thanks Mike and Nick for the pics, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get them up on the channel. But so once you take this off, you're gonna have, I believe, 8 layers, and each layer is gonna have little bars, little zigzaggedy Z-looking bars that go from these, you know, corresponding, like say this wire would go to this fuse or whatever, you know what I mean? And they zigzag through there and they stack with very, very minuscule spacing. And it's just like little flat bars. And they have these ends on one end and ends like these, which are in here on the other. And they stack in a layer to keep themselves separate. Well, what happens is when you start to get all this green corrosion, you guys have seen them on batteries where it just cakes up all over the battery terminal. So what'll happen is, because there's such a tight tolerance or spacing between all of these, that the corrosion will get in here from a water drip around the windshield, and the green corrosion will build up and bridge, say, from this one to this one. You know, now this is a pretty big gap, but when you look at it horizontally, they might be a sheet of loose leaf paper apart from each other, and it's very, very easy for that green corrosion to bridge that gap. Break it down even further. Let's say you have a constant hot, like your headlights, which come on all the time whether you have the key on or not, and it bridges to the wiper motor, or it bridges to the horn, or it bridges to something else. It'll send power to that, and that's going to act like you have the switch on. And so anyhow, once you grind these out, these clips will separate. You can pull this apart, and if anybody else does it and wants to send any pictures in, hit me up in the comments. From my understanding, unless you're in the electrical game, you're not going to get this back together in a usable form. So if you're doing this on your truck and it's an old beat around truck you don't need, you might want to try to fiddle with it and play with it. But from what I understand, the bars that are running in and out of here, once they start to corrode, that's it. You're never gonna get them back right. So again, you've been seeing the slideshow of Mike and Nick's pics of theirs. So again, drill this out, pop them off. You can see the bars that we've been looking at on the slideshow, but that's the corrosion. So that's going to cause a whole bunch of weird activity in the truck. So if you're dealing with kind of ghosts in the machine, with you parked your truck and in the middle of the night the running lights or the headlights are on, or the horn is blowing, or your wiper stuff coming on by itself, check for corrosion around here, because if corrosion gets in here, it's going to cause you a problem. And like I said, for some reason the windshield leaks. The way this sits in the truck is kind of like this. The windshield leaks in here, that goes through these little gaps in the plastic, and because of the electrical because this is electrically charged, it creates the corrosion. So when you get to ordering these off of eBay, you know, you'll need the code, but it's almost, this is somewhat, I mean, all the fuse boxes are going to come the same. They're going to be missing a gem module. The plugs are going to be like this, and they may or may not have fuses and relays. But on the Ford numbers, just so you guys know, this is the prefix, this YC3T, and all that indicates is what vehicle this goes on. So again, that translates into 2000 F250. All right, the engineering number, which is this 14A067, that identifies what type of part this is. So again, this prefix 2000 F250, this is the number for a fuse box, so all the fuse boxes are going to be 14A. This is what I'm told, so I'm not sure if, you know, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but this is what I was told. And then the suffix, or the last part of the Ford number, is how many times the number's been changed. What do they call that? Well, anyway, superseded. So the first part is going to talk about the vehicle that this goes on. This middle section means fuse box. So with that in mind, any of our trucks should have a different prefix depending on the truck. 14A067 should be a common number between the trucks, because all that means is we're talking about fuse box. And then the suffix is kind of irrelevant, because that's just what number was superseded by another number. And so that helps Ford, but it really doesn't help us. So that'll give you a little idea on how that breaks down. And that, in a nutshell, is touching on cloning the fuse boxes and giving y'all a little bit of insight via seeing these, as well as a slideshow that, again, those photos were from a couple of viewers, Mike and Nick. I'm not going to put out any more information than that without checking with them. So that'll give y'all a little information to work on your fuse box. I do not know what's got Snoop. Oh, I see. Snoop is barking in the background because of the cats. Sorry about that. But that's what we got right here. So good luck on your fuse box. Hit me up if you got any questions. If any of the information that I mentioned is not that accurate, hit me up and let me know where I messed up, and we'll make a change to it. All right, guys. See y'all on the next one.